Welcome to the show, folks. This is Wrestling Changed My Life. Here we go.
When you really are intentional about your training and intentional about what you want and intentional in every aspect of your life, like it changes. It changes.
We can endure anything and adapt and pivot and change. Wrestling gave us that ability.
I would say nothing in life has impacted me more than the things wrestling has taught me in terms of self-reflection, resilience.
Toughness. Some guys have it, some guys don't.
Adversity, 100%. How to pick myself up and be a man after I failed.
And everything that has shaped my life and where I'm at today would not be there without the values and basically the lessons I've learned through the sport of wrestling.
For me, wrestling saved my life because it allowed me to focus and channel my energy.
We're fortunate if you wrestled, because if you wrestled, natural talent helps, but it's 5% of the ingredient. It pales in comparison to heart and technique and effort.
It humbled me, taught me humility. Nothing can humble you more than wrestling. I think it's the learning to adapt, right? You learn how to adapt, you learn how to solve problems.
You know, if I look back at my time I spent wrestling, if it gave me one thing more than anything else, it's mental toughness.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Wrestling Changed My Life podcast. This is your host, Ryan Warner, episode 141, and we have the great Isaiah Martinez, Imar, as he's known amongst the wrestling populace. One of the most powerful nicknames you're ever going to hear. 4-time NCAA finalist. As a freshman and sophomore, he was a 2-time national champ. And last spring, he took the great Jordan Burroughs to the edge, pushed him to the very final match in their best-of-3 series and was barely edged out. He's one of the best the U.S. has to offer, and he recently took a coaching position at Oregon State. So he's back on the West Coast. We talk about that. We talk about his trip to Russia. He spent a month there with the great Brian Medlen. Just an awesome conversation. Really enjoy getting to meet Imar here. Fan of the week goes to Brady Storehog, a sales rep from Minneapolis. Brady, thank you for tuning in, my friend. I appreciate it. Folks, if you want to keep up with the podcast, follow us on Instagram, Wrestling Changed My Life. Facebook, it's Wrestling Changed My Life. On Twitter, it's just my name, Ryan_N_Warner. And you could always see us at WrestlingChangeMyLife.com. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you all tuning in. And if you want to help support the show, just spread the word to your friends and family. On that point, if you're in front of your phone now, it would mean the world to us if you gave us a 5-star rating, a 4-star rating, whatever you think we deserve. Give us a review, though, because it helps bubble this podcast up to other folks that are searching for wrestling content. That's it. I've said my piece. Let's give it up for Imar. Peace! You're in Oregon State. What went into taking this position?
I mean, a lot of things. All right. So when CP got the job, it was, exciting for me because me and Chris are from the same high school.
Right.
We went to the same high school. I grew up, seeing his name on the board, and I've worked with him, in a very limited scope. I've been on trips with him, and when I would go out to Arizona State and train with Zahid, he was kind of, over us and like seeing, our training and stuff. And it kind of, I think, when I think about him and I think about my wrestling, like he's one of the most underrated technicians in the sport right now, right? This guy really, really knows wrestling. So that was one aspect, right? Like I want to better my wrestling. So I want to go learn from someone that has a very good understanding of wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And two, like I've always wanted to be a coach. I never made that a secret. I love wrestling, and it is my passion and, essentially my life. So yeah. I want to make a career out of it. So there's that obvious connection right there with Chris. And I'm from the West Coast. I'm from California. So,
dude,
when the opportunity came up, as difficult as it was, it just kind of aligned everything, right? It's closer to home. It's around someone that I've had experience with and know and trust. And it's a place that really supports wrestling, and that could be really, really good. They have all the support in the world here, and they want to be good. That's the most important thing, is like they have the desire to be a good program, right, from the administration and the alumni and the donors and things like that, that was crucial. So, you know, it was a lot of things, and it was extremely difficult to leave Illinois because I love Illinois, and the coaches have been great to me, and you know, it's been my home for the past 8 years, but it was just I think it was just kind of time to move on.
Yeah, that first one when you leave, kind of like anytime you take your first job, whatever field it is, it's always the hardest to leave because like those people are your family essentially, right? I mean, think about your change as a person from when you arrived in Champaign as a true freshman to now. It's like night and day.
Yeah,
It's hard to even compare it.
I remember when I first got to Illinois, it was, again, I'm from California. It was a whole culture shock, but I was so excited to be a part of a Big Ten program and be around other high level wrestlers. And it was all new and it was all very, very exciting. And then, you know, kind of getting better in wrestling and making those bonds and, you know, serving my university and, you know, them progressing me, you know, it was everything about my experience was great.
Dude, one of my favorite stories about your early years at Illinois is, I think it was after your true freshman year, you wrestled Valencia in the World Team Trials, and I think he beat you. And this is like before you and Mark had a talk about taking it seriously. I don't know if you remember this or not. It was featured in the Flow documentary, but you were like, yeah, Anthony, you know, I thought I was working hard. I wasn't. Anthony put the screws to me. Then afterwards, Mark had a conversation with me, and then it really changed my career.
Yeah, I think that he didn't just beat me. He took it to me, right? And I'm never afraid to admit that, like, I get beat all the time, but it was just the way I got beat and the idea behind, like, I really wanted to make this team. I really wanted to, you know, go on and, you know, win junior world medal and the gold medal and all that. I really, really wanted it. And it didn't happen for me.
Right.
And you start reflecting, like, why did this happen? You know, you look at your training. I'm thinking at the time, like, I'm working extremely hard. I'm dedicated. I'm doing everything. And then you have, you know, Perry come up to me, and this is probably one of the most important aspects of a coach and pupil like relationship is trust and honesty, right? I think up to that point, like, he was honest, but it was not as brutal as it was at that point, right? Like, sometimes you have to be brutally honest. Sometimes you got to have those painful conversations, and they sting, but, you know, a lot of times it makes you better in the end. And it really did. It really kind of reshifted and, like, elevated the way I think about my own wrestling and the way I think about my lifestyle and everything that goes into being a good wrestler. What
were some of the things he said to you in that conversation?
You know, a lot of it was more about focus, you know, focus and just discipline and effort, right? Like, I know it's as cheesy as it is, but, like, when you really are intentional about your training, intentional about what you want, intentional in every aspect of your life, like, it changes you and it creates kind of a path to success. And there's always going to be the ups and downs and things like that. But if you're intentional about your desires and about what you want in this game and who you want to be, like, that's the first huge step to take, is, like, taking everything seriously.
And was it something where you were doing more workouts, or just during the workouts you were pushing the wall back every time?
You know, I've said this before. I think about the way I used to train when I was first, you know, going into my redshirt freshman year, and I'm like, I can't believe I used to do those things. Like, yeah, I would. I mean, What would you do? I was killing myself. I would, like, you know, guys want to win practice. Guys want to score a bunch of takedowns. I was literally trying to score 100 takedowns every single practice. I was trying to decimate my teammates, and I feel bad because that's just kind of how I played the game at the time. But I was brutal. I was like a dog on a bone every single day. I was just trying to, you know, murder myself and murder my opponent, right? So I look back and I'm like, I can't believe I did that. But it was what I needed at the time. It was what I needed. It was that fearlessness to take those risks that, you know, kind of brought me to, like, the problems in my game and let me address them, right? So, like, I would take like 1,000 shots a day. And
Jesus, dude.
No, not 1,000 shots, but I'm exaggerating. I would take so much risk that, if there was any issue in my game, I would find out and I would address it right away.
And that's a situation where it sounds like you also weren't afraid of being tired anymore at that point.
Yeah, that's kind of the one thing that a lot of wrestlers struggle with is the fear of getting tired, and I don't think it ever goes away. that fear of getting tired, if you're not in great shape, like that's hitting that wall is always a major fear, and it causes that cortisol and anxiety to spike before you even step on the mat, which leads to worse performance. But what I did, I was just like, I didn't care how tired I got. I was gonna not win. I was gonna dominate and score however many takedowns until I was satisfied. And I was rarely ever satisfied with myself at practice. And I was so hard on myself when I was younger. I couldn't believe that I did that. But as I've gotten older, I realized it's not a very sustainable way. But like at the time, to get to that first big hurdle or that first level, being a national champ is just kind of what I had to do.
And like, would you go into practice 30 minutes out? Were you getting yourself hyped up and setting practice goals for yourself before each one?
I wouldn't set goals. I think I just had one overlying goal before I got to practice. Be ready, make sure your mind is ready, warm up hard, and you're just gonna crush everyone in front of you. Like it wasn't specific. It was just like, you're just going to go out there and you're going to kill everyone. You're going to score 100 takedowns and when you have sprints at the end, you're going to go so hard, you're probably going to throw up. You get over it now. And I did. I would throw up almost every single day at practice. I think just from like straining so hard and holding my breath that I was a notorious puker.
So you're telling me it would not be a surprise if you threw up at least 3 times a week?
No, I mean, you could ask any of my teammates that it was a common occurrence. It didn't matter how good of shape I was in. I would still get there every single time. I just knew there was always that one hurdle that would push me right over the edge, and then I'd be gone. I'd be on the trash can.
Dude, that's a place most people never get to once in their life, and you were going there several times a week.
Yeah, and I, what, I've had to pull it back as I've gotten older. Again, as I've grown in the sport, I've learned to become a better wrestler, not just a machine or like impossible to get tired or just the strongest. I wanna be great at wrestling, and growing my knowledge. So
right,
that's kind of switched a little bit, but I still get there sometimes. I mean, when Coach Medlen would put me through like a farlick run, I'd be over a trash can every time.
What's a farlick run?
It's like a timed run where you'd have intervals of sprinting and then jogging and then sprinting and then jogging for an extended period of time around a track.
Okay.
So like it would be like 15 seconds off, 5 second sprint, 10 second sprint, 10 seconds off, 15 second sprint, 5 seconds off. Right. And it would just change, and it would keep you on your toes every time. And I've never been more exhausted in my entire life.
How long does that go on for? Like 10 minutes or?
It really depends. It depends on where you're at in your training, like, phase, and with periodization and everything. Earlier on, it's a lot longer. But as you get closer to competition and you get closer, it's much shorter intervals of sprints and longer rest time.
Dude, Medlen is a fascinating cat, isn't he?
I love him.
Oh, he's amazing. I just connected with him last week, but for a long time heard of him from afar, that he's like this philosopher guy, and he's asking math questions while you're working out. It's like, dude, is this fact or fiction about this guy? I don't know. Is it true he does that?
No, he definitely does. Well, I mean, we'd be on the Aerodyne, and he'd be like, "What's the square root of 169 or whatever?" And you're having to make your brain work while you're trying to shut your brain off and just go, right? And he reads a lot of studies and articles, and I think that's what I like about him too in the wrestling room, is he's like kind of like a scientist a little bit. Like he'll come in and like, okay, we're going to try this, see how you guys like it. And, you know, he's always in the process of refining himself as a coach as well, like us as athletes. So, you know, it's easy to like someone like that is hungry for knowledge and that's constantly trying to better himself in the sport.
Did you know him before he came into like your first practice?
I'll actually, so I did a camp for him down in Washington when I was like sophomore. And I remember just because I didn't really know him at this time. I only knew him from like stories from and he's coming in and I didn't really understand how he like assesses technique and like the faces. He's got kind of a stern face when he's trying to focus.
Yeah, he does.
And he's actually super nice guy. He's just kind of got a stern face sometimes. I was doing like, he was like, can you show the guys like your underhook offense? And I'm like doing like my underhook offense and trying to explain it. And I look over at him and he's just like looking at me and like, he got this real stern face. And like, all I could feel is like, like being ashamed. I'm like, he probably thinks this is terrible technique. And I never said anything about it until like he came over and he's like, no, I was just trying to break down your techniques. And he was asking me a lot of questions and I'm like, does he think this is terrible technique? And I mean, I didn't really know him, but
so you're in your head about it, you're tripping about it, and then years later you bring it up.
Yeah, he's like, no, I was just trying to really understand what you were doing.
Dude, that's hilarious. He does have that face. His good friend in coaching, Mike Powell, who coaches up in Chicago area, they both have this very intimidating look to him. And unless you know them, I was terrified of him for years when I'd see him at like freestyle tournaments. He used to have the big beard. And now you guys just went to Russia. Talk about that experience and what you guys were doing over there for a month. Obviously you were wrestling, but where were you staying at? Who were you training with?
So we were in Vladikavkaz at the academy there. It's just it's like a big compound, like a wrestling compound where you stay in the dorms and you wrestle. You know, they had their like, what is it? The Ossetia national team.
Okay.
They have guys from Georgia coming and, you know, Azerbaijan and, you know, just great world-class wrestlers are there. And I basically lived there for three weeks and we just trained and they would feed you down in, you know, in the kitchen and everyone would eat together. And, you know, we're the only English speakers there. And so we're kind of limited in our communication, but, you know, we were there to wrestle and that was kind of things. And they were very warm and very, you know, accommodating for us because we were wrestlers and it was something that connected us. As far as, you know,
like, was it their practices or your practices that you guys were doing?
It was their practices.
Got it. So you just joined in on that?
Yeah, we were just joined in, right? We'd all line up and they'd like speak in Russian and they'd ask us like to count off. And when they would get to us, I'd be like, I don't know. And then they would count for me. But as far as partners, you couldn't have better partners in the world, right? You know, Sadakov, Sabalov, Kinchkazi, and I'm probably forgetting a bunch of other guys, but here's the really, really good thing about it. The real important thing is you will have, you know, a dozen guys at the same weight and they're all world-class wrestlers. And some of these guys may never, ever see the light of day because, you know, you know, Russia's so big and, you know, only a handful of them ever get to make it out or make a team. But these guys are all within 1-2 points of the very best guys in the world. You know? You know, so like these guys can wrestle and there's a dozen of them at your weight. And every single day you're wrestling someone that is world-class caliber, that has been wrestling for 15, 20 years of their life and have wrestled freestyle and understand, you know, what world-class technique is and, you know, things like that and training. And, you know, they have the aspirations to make the team just as much, but a lot of them don't ever get to make the team, but they're still just as good. It's crazy. It blows my mind thinking about it.
And so you may be going with a guy who you don't even know who he is, and he's giving you good goes.
Yeah. Oh, more than good goes, like scoring takedowns and stuff on you. Like,
dude, isn't that freaking ridiculous? And that's only Ossetia. You got Dagestan and Chechnya too, all within that area. It's like crazy. How are there? Just walk us through a practice. How is it different from one you would do here in the States? Like, what's the warm up like? Technique, drilling.
Okay, so there's no such thing as drilling. right? And the mechanical, like, okay, I'm gonna put my hands on the inside, you grab my elbow, we're gonna go, right? And like very like, mechanical kind of way of moving. There is none of that. So at the beginning of practice, you all line up, and there's probably 80 of us in there, because this whole wrestling area is huge. There's probably like 8 mats. So there's probably about 100 of us, and we all line up, and they do their address, and you can't understand what they're saying because they're speaking Russian. I don't speak Russian. And then they pick the guy, whoever's going to lead the warm up, and then you start jogging around, and they really, really, take the time to do a good warm up. Right, warm-ups are like 25, 30 minutes long sometimes. Right, you're doing like crab walks and hand walks the entire time. And after that, it was like, I think the most common practice was 4 situations of sparring, and then 2 matches every single day. So four situations of sparring, whether it be a chest wrap, front headlock, quad pod, and one other one that was really important was like leg lace, right? Okay. Like leg lace and gut wrench. Like it was an emphasis, right? Like, you're gonna let this guy get a lock, and then we're gonna spar.
So is it just being live or what? Like live situations from like a gut wrench?
So it was very progressive in the way the sparring worked. The sparring started off real light, and towards the end of the 8 minutes or however long we were doing each situation, it would progressively get more and more intense, and then it would taper down, and then you would start the new position, and it would start off real light, and it'd go up, and then it'd stop, and then go. It would do that for like 4 situations, and then you would have a pretty long break, like 10-15 minute break, and then you would do your 2 matches. And I know, as an American, you look at that and you're like, that's not that much wrestling.
Right.
Like, but you have to understand, you're wrestling world-class guys the entire time. Mm-hmm. Right. So like 2 matches, 3 times a week, with other world-class wrestlers is extremely taxing.
So it's every other day even? It's not even every day?
No, it's not. You don't wrestle matches every day.
Gotcha.
Right. So you would wrestle Monday, Tuesday. We would do 2 a day sometimes, where the morning practice was, more kind of technique work. And then
not even then it wasn't like a structured drill.
So the thing is, there's no such thing as structured drilling. If you wanted to drill and you had a question on technique, you did it after practice. And there was guys that would stay 2 hours after practice, just jump roping, pull ups, doing things like that, and they would go talk to their coaches and then get the technical advice. I think what I really liked, and I know this is not so un-American in the way that they do it. If you wanted to know more about wrestling, you as the individual have to go ask the coaches to work with you after practice. But when we're at practice, you're doing what the coach says, and you're sparring and figuring it out for yourself. And I think that's, when you're young, not it's probably not the best, but as you get a lot older, late teen years and early 20s, that's the best way to go about it. Learning to figure it out for yourself. And then if you can't, then you go ask.
For sure. And it forces you to be self-aware enough to know where you need the help.
Yeah. It forces you to like assess your own wrestling. Like, okay, you can only get chest wrapped so many times before you're like, okay, this is an issue, and you won't be surprised how many times you will get crotch lift before you're like, I should probably do something about this.
Right.
Maybe 20 times. I don't know. It takes me a long time.
What about weightlifting and running? Do you see any of that action over there, or they're not about that?
They don't necessarily have great weight equipment. So a lot of pull-ups, a lot of jump ropes. They have a couple treadmills. But they would never run very fast. It was like more, they would wrestle. They're wrestlers, and that's the way they would get better at wrestling. And I think it's good and bad. It just depends on your body type, right? I think it depends on the gifts you were given, right, and what you can accentuate. Like a lot of Americans, we do a lot of weightlifting, and I love weightlifting. I'm a power wrestler, and that's a very important aspect of my wrestling. But for a lot of those guys that thrive under that system, they're not the power lifters, but they have incredible they do a lot of bands, and I think what it does is it just conditions those little muscles in the shoulder,
Mm-hmm.
and they take so many shots and they do so many sprawls, and that's the real emphasis, right? And I think it just creates a great endurance in those split second situations. They're not going to be the strongest, and they're not going to, and maybe that's probably why a lot of them gas.
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of worked out for them.
Oh, dude, to say the least, their medal count is ridiculous. I did a audio documentary on Gable last year, and one of the parts was on him wrestling the Russians, and they had won like every world championship from like 1968 through 1991 under the Soviet Union. Then after that, pretty much every one. It's like their track record's incredible.
And it just speaks to the lifestyle. They live it. They live wrestling. That is their, I fish a lot. That's my hobby, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wrestling is their hobby and their profession, right? It's what they do. It's the lifestyle they live. Their life revolves around their practices, their wrestling, and I think a lot of times here, which I'm not saying it's bad, but here in the States, we have a lot going on. It's very easy not to let your wrestling be the center of your world. And there's times when it shouldn't be, and there's times when it should be. But over there, like it's a whole family thing. Everyone knows wrestling. Everyone's around wrestling. It's just the lifestyle there.
Well, even here, like even if you're talking about focusing on wrestling here, you could also mean coaching. Like they're not coaching. Being a college coach is one of the most demanding jobs there is in terms of time and calls and all that.
You are absolutely right. I'm just learning that I'm always on my phone and always on my laptop now. It's just been very busy for, because we're just starting here, and but I love it because it's wrestling. It's wrestling 24/7. It's always wrestling. So,
right.
At the end of the day, even though I am tired and there are a lot of obligations, I'm happy that I'm doing it, because it is wrestling. But like you were saying, they don't coach over there.
Right, to balance both would be like ludicrous to them. Like they wouldn't even consider that.
You don't even have to balance school. That's the crazy thing. Like you got potential. You're going to night. You have like 8-year-olds going to night school.
Dude.
They do their workouts. They do their workouts in the morning and midday, and then they go to school at night. And you just stop going to school a lot of times.
Did you think
but I think it's pretty cool. I was asking questions about it, like, because you would just see kids like walking around in the middle of the day, like during school hours. Like, when do you guys go to school? And they're like, oh, we have night school.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Dude, what were the meals like over there? What were you guys eating during the day?
A lot of dill. A lot of dill. It's like a herb.
Okay. I'm with you. I thought you meant dill pickles. I'm like, what?
No, yeah, it's like a little like leaf, but a lot of just homemade meals, right? Like, so they did. I said this to Coach Medlen. I was like, man, I am so soft because I won't even eat a fruit now that has seeds in it. And when we're over there, everything has seeds and everything has bones in them. I'm like, I don't even want to eat because it's too much work to take the bones out of this, chicken soup, whatever. And I'm like, man, we've grown so soft. I won't even eat a grape if it has seeds in it, like I have an option.
Dude, we got it good, dude. If we got that's like the biggest first world problem. I got a seed in my fruit.
Yeah, my whole experience is ruined now.
Dude, that's just a hard group over there. And you think about if there's that many good dudes who are good at wrestling, how many dudes over there could be like UFC champs if they just had the money and the opportunity?
I mean, yeah.
You know what I mean?
You kind of hit it on the head with that one. There's those guys, it does make you feel very grateful to have the opportunity and to have the resources.
Right.
That some people don't have around the world. It'd be crazy. Like if they had an infrastructure that, allowed for that path, it'd be very, very bad for the United States.
It would. No, I appreciate you sharing that thoughts about that trip because I was super interested in it coming into it. And just really the last thing I want to talk to you about is transitioning to coaching. When was your first year on the staff? Like, is this your first job now, or were you an assistant at Illinois as well?
I was the volunteer.
Okay. So does that involve like a lot of day-to-day coaching or more so just wrestling with guys in the room?
More so just wrestling, recruiting, making calls, doing stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But now with being on staff, it has stepped up, right? And I would kill just to be in a practice right now, right? I haven't been able to wrestle, and I can't even tell you how long. Right, that's the fun part. That's the easy part, and that's what I'm looking forward to when I get back. I mean, I gotta get surgery, so I'm gonna be out for a while, but I just want to be around the guys and be on the mat. But yeah, this would be technically my third year of coaching, my first year on staff. So yeah.
What have you picked up just in the few years being removed? Because I always thought it was interesting when people get into coaching, they go, "Oh my God, I wish I knew this, and this when I was wrestling." Fortunately for you, you still are wrestling. And you've been, like you said, 3 years under your belt. What are some things that stick out to you? Like, and this wasn't that big of a deal, or I should have been focusing on this more.
As far as coaching?
Yeah. Like, what have you noticed being a coach that you wish you knew when you were a wrestler, or what things have really stuck out to you?
How hard it is to be like brutally honest with guys. So, like, it hurts. It hurts to be hurts to be mean to your guys sometimes, because like you care about them, and as an athlete, I was always like, you need to tell me the truth, because like that's what I value. Be honest with me, and because there's an understanding. We both want to do good things. I want to win whatever, and you want me to win whatever. That's the baseline understanding. So I need the honesty from you. As I became a coach, like, it's hard. Not everyone's like me, and not everyone's like. Not everyone's going to be a superstar, and that's okay. That's great. Some of the best guys I've known were guys that never saw the lineup. I think it was just balancing that. Not again, like, wrestling is my life, right? And it's my passion. And there are some guys that want to go on and do different things, and I have to balance like a way to reach those kind of guys. It's easy to reach the guys that want to be the best wrestler ever, like that's the easy part. It's being relatable and reaching the guys that, maybe wrestling isn't their entire life, but getting them to buy into the program, into the idea, into being better men, right? And getting them to understand if you just, you kind of do the right things, it's going to pay dividends for the rest of your life, right? But you can't be like hostile about that, because then that makes you
yeah, it's like a lot of coaches have come out right away, just in like just the small high school ranks around where I'm from. You see them kind of being angry coaches at the beginning, and then they kind of mellow out over the next 5 to 10 years, so to speak.
Yeah, you kind of, I think luckily I'm a pretty relaxed guy now, so I'm not, because I'm still an athlete. Like I have an understanding. Like I can level with a lot of the guys. Like I get it, man. It's hard being a wrestler. Like it sucks sometimes just waking up early when you're sore and stuff like that. So like I have that understanding. So I'm not too far away from the game where I'm angry and I'm like, you should do everything like I say. You should be like me. Things like that. Like I understand. I celebrate the differences in our athletes, and it's good. It's good for a team dynamic. But yeah, I'm still a wrestler too. So like, it's
for sure
easy to be, compassionate.
Well, that was the last thing I wanted to ask you about is I've heard you say that you were really feeling good about the 2020 trials, in that you kind of had that feeling in you, like things were bubbling up and really getting to the kind of the right point, both mentally and physically. When was the first time you heard that things were going to be canceled or postponed, and kind of take us through that process?
Yeah, I think I started reading the writing on the wall, once the NCAAs got canceled.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, there's no way that they're gonna, you hope, you're like, because you're like, man, you're getting really wound up, and like, it's just building and building and building, and you're feeling good about yourself, and everything's just going right in your training, and you've been doing the right things, and you could just see it for yourself. It's right there. You see it for yourself. And things outside of your control, and it was the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
But things outside your control, kind of take it away, and it was a bummer. Like there's no better way to put it than it was just, it sucked.
Yeah.
But I started seeing that, I figured they were going to do it probably when they canceled the NCAA. I was like, there's no way they're going to continue this. But we were still training up to the point when they like postponed it. Being in that limbo was not fun though.
That's brutal. I mean, you couldn't even work out at the universities, right?
Oh, yeah. Once NCAA's got canceled, we could no longer work out there.
So what were you doing?
We were working out at Poeta's gym in Mahomet.
Nice.
I
didn't know if you and the wife are in there drilling snap downs, go behinds, or anything like that.
So eventually, they were doing rent forgiveness for the facility, but they were like, if you guys are in there, we will not forgive rent. You'll have to still pay rent, right? So we could no longer work out at Poeta's either after a while.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so we just started working out at home. Yeah, and like you said, I was like drilling with Anissa, like, come here, slap a collar tie on me. I just need to watching like film and just trying to keep myself engaged in any way I could.
How could you even get close to the kind of output you were doing in a gym, like in your house? I mean, there's no way. What were you doing? Just like work, like running and jump roping and shit like that?
Yeah, jump roping. I had the Bulgarian bags, I had bands, but you're right. No, the output was different. So, I had to put that effort in mentally, right? Like I had to step up my film watching. I had to, keep myself engaged all day about wrestling, not just for, those 6 hours or however long my training day was. It was trying to engage myself all the time just to keep myself in it, right? Like,
right.
Remember, it's so easy just to be like, I'll do it tomorrow. You know what? Whatever. I'll do it later. So it was about focusing on just keeping myself engaged and keeping myself around it.
Yeah, that diet starts to slip. It's real easy, man.
Oh gosh, I can't even tell you. I'm prepping for surgery right now, and I haven't been able to work out in like 2 or 3 weeks, and it's hard to keep your weight under control when you're not working out. And I don't got the best genetics for maintaining good weight.
Are we talking 20 over, plus or minus 20 over right now?
I'm probably walking around right now like I'm gonna say 180.
Hey, it's me. You can be honest with me here. No, I'm kidding.
I'm gonna say 180, but I'm afraid that it might be 2 or 3 pounds more than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll call it 185. Dude, that's funny. Well, I was looking forward to seeing you out there. My brother and I had tickets, and obviously none of that happened. So wanted to get your thoughts on it, because I know you were right in the freaking mix of making that team, man. I mean, I was really looking forward to seeing you in there, and obviously next year too. Do you have plans after 2021, or is that a wrap for you competitively?
Oh no, I'm gonna compete for I'm hoping my body holds up. That's the thing that is the hardest about the sport is, I never had, this is my first surgery. I was always a guy that pushed through injuries, and, so that's been a big focus now is like taking care of my body. And as long as I feel good, I'm going to do it until I can't do it anymore, because, I believe I have the potential and I have the talent to be, a world team member and a gold medalist. Right. And that's something that I've always wanted. So I'm going to do it until I can't do it anymore.
Dude, there's no question you do. And you think about, if you train like those Russians, is that going to impact how you train going forward, knowing if that's what they're doing over there?
Well, so that's kind of a big thing with my wrestling now is like just collecting knowledge, just like always trying to learn and grow, and that's been, invaluable as I'm like prepping for surgery and knowing that I'm going to be out for a while. I get to just think about how I'm going to prepare. I get to think, plan out, collect information, and then, have all this stuff. And then I get to try it when I get to finally get back on. But no, so with the Russian, training system, I'm hoping to take it and, show it to our guys here at Oregon State and implement that. Because I think college wrestling is way, way too long of a season, and if you would have asked me this, 4 years ago, I'd have been like, you're crazy. It's perfect. But, you get older and you like realize like, no, it's so hard on these guys' bodies.
It's ridiculous. And so you're going to implement that in your own coaching. Will you do that with your own workouts too, though? Knowing that you're going to be 6 months from now training again, do you see yourself moving to that situational wrestling 2 matches every other day kind of thing?
Well, we kind of already did that at the RTC.
Nice. Okay.
That was just kind of our training model.
Medlen's ahead of the curve already. I should have known.
No, he will never say it about himself, but he's pretty smart guy.
He's awesome. The other guy there I had to ask you about, Mike Poeta. He described your first work. I had him on last week, and he was describing your guys' first workout. I need you to corroborate this here, all right? He said that someone in the locker room asked you, like, who would beat so-and-so in a match? Would you beat Poeta or not? And the kid's like, nah, Poeta'd get you. And then during the next workout, you just laid it on him, and we're looking over at the guy and your teammate, like stuffing his head in the mat.
That was, I think, Nikita.
It was Nikita, yeah.
No, I don't think so. I'm a pretty competitive guy, right? But I'm not. It's weird. I'm not very competitive outside of wrestling. As an individual, I don't think I'm very competitive. But when it comes to wrestling, like, I will never go out there and not try to win. I'm trying to win when I get out there, like win at all costs, and not say that cautiously, but like really I'm just trying to win. And yeah, I mean, if I had the opportunity, I would have did it. But it's funny because Mike, when he first got to Illinois, he was still really, really good, like really, really fast, and like he could scrap. He beat 99% of the guys on the team. I bet you right now he'd still beat most of the guys on the team. Like not easily, but he would probably control it. He's still a good wrestler. Like, he still knows his stuff.
How does he compare to wrestling Mark Perry?
Perry was different in the way that he was just a weird long body kind of guy. Mark was more like calculated, and like he would like trap you, cradle you, things like that, like lay traps for you. Like, you would shoot on him and he would sit the corner real fast. Mike is more offensive in that he can still shoot really, really good. You know what I mean? Like,
we're talking about him like he's 70. He's like 35.
He's had several surgeries. You
right.
know what I mean?
Right.
And he wasn't wrestling at a high level when he was, coaching at his club, right? So he was
That's
away.
A big difference.
Right? Like, he was wrestling high school guys, but that I think that kind of just goes to show like how good of a wrestler he actually was. Like, he was able to go from that to being right back in the room. And as my last couple of years, we kind of stopped wrestling each other so much because I would, I'm a hard guy to train with sometimes because I'm pretty physical. So before I left, we would only sparsely wrestle every now and then, and he would always give a good go.
Dude, I'm from Illinois. He was the man growing up, dude. Mike Poeta was just the shit, dude. Legend.
Yeah.
As are you, my friend. All-time winning wrestler at Illinois. Being an Illinois guy, it means a lot to have you on the show. Really appreciate you making some time. Excited to see what you guys do out there at Oregon State. Wish you nothing but the best, my friend.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
And all great things must come to an end. If you want to hear more from the podcast, text WRESTLE to 555-888. That's WRESTLE to 555-888. You can also find us on Instagram, Wrestling Changed My Life, Twitter, Ryan_N_Warner, as well as our website, WrestlingChangeMyLife.com. Take care, y'all. Calm. Take care, y'all. Calm. Take care, y'all. Calm. Take care, y'all. Calm. Take care, y'all.